Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Owning Your Sexual Self. I am just so honored and grateful to have on our guest today, JoJo Seamons. We met, when was that? December, I think, at a facilitator's training. And she's just one of those people that immediately when I fell in love with you, immediately when I laid eyes on her, I fell in love with her. She was just this person, her energy, her presence, her being was just so welcoming, so inviting. And even when you hear her speak, you'll hear it through her voice. She's just a person that wraps you in a little hug and you just know that you're safe with her. And we're talking all things, spirituality today, sexuality today, getting a little woo probably for some of you on this episode. But let me read her bio real quick and then I'll let her jump in and share a little bit about her. But JoJo is a Reiki master. She's an embodiment coach and an intimacy coach, as well as a sound practitioner. And she loves teaching and serving her community through sharing heart-led messages, which we'll get a little dabble of that today too. I'm excited. Reiki, and then guiding others through integrating each moment of their lives. So welcome, JoJo, to the show. I'm so happy to have you.
Yay! Insert soundboard. Just kidding. I always envision yeah. Thanks, Rachel. You're so sweet. I am just as much honored as well as feel the same with you. I fell in love with you too. Love at first sight. No, you are just as caring, and I receive every reflection you gave me. So thank you, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm very excited. As I said, we got to connect just a little bit at that facilitator's training, but you led us through a sound bowl experience there. And again, just feeling your presence. And now with you getting into this sex and intimacy space for you is a little bit newer of a thing. This is something that you kind of added to your skill set within the last year and a half. And so I'm thrilled to hear how that has even changed the work that you do now with clients. And you have a retreat coming up this weekend. And I mean, I'm here
all the things.
All the things, yes. So
yay.
Tell us, JoJo, tell us for you wherever you want to start in your timeline, little JoJo, teenage JoJo, adult JoJo, what kind of life have you lived and how did you even get into this work?
Honestly, I mean, it's our whole life is a journey, right? To get us to where we are. So it's all been like step after step. But I was thinking about what would my biggest message be to share in regards to my journey? And it's really been overcoming the dark nights of the soul. And what that means to me is like the more shadowy aspects of the human experience, right? Like, even whether we talk about like death and loss, or just what life to me has to offer us is death and rebirth. It's the cycle of it all. And so it's honoring it all. And so my path has gotten me here really spiritually, just because I grew up in a really conflicting religious home. My mom's side was Catholic and my dad's side was LDS. Basically, anything I was taught was to be a good girl, stay within these rules, these guidelines. And I never really got to question, who am I? What do I desire outside of what anyone's given me, whether it was, my physical parents, my bloodline family, or teachers, mentors, anyone coming into my life. So for me, it was like this reclaiming my power and my sovereignty, which was my sexual power, because I was sexually abused growing up. And for me, I had really, really disassociated, completely from my body. I got into talk therapies. I went the yogic route, and that really was my foundation of coming back home to me and experiencing really felt sensation for some of the first time, because I had just really, I think I had like locked myself up in that really young age just to protect myself. And so a lot of my adolescence or adulthood or growing up has been like working with and calling all these aspects home to grow into womanhood, to go from maiden to mother, and then even to call in all archetypes, right? To embody that. And so it's interesting. It all just has like melted into this really juicy, what I call my sacred work. But it just is that. So I've been heart led. I just follow my yeses and honor my nos, and I guess I just really want to highlight that it's honoring and accepting like the bad stuff. And so if I speak to like my journey, spiritually, I got connected from losing really, really close people to me and starting at a young age. I lost my best friend in kindergarten. And then it was rapid, and I just lost a lot of people. And so love to me even was connected to loss. So when I talk about like reclaiming, it's reclaiming unconditional love, whether it's for myself or for another that I'm connecting to. And that's why, I mean, I hope and I love and I get cold chills about even the idea that you can reflect to me, that you feel like I'm a hug when I'm with you. That to me is, that's my sacred work. That's my sacred why. Like, that's why I show up. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't come with strife or the rough bits. Like I've chosen all of that too. I've met my edges along the way. I've chosen the hard way a lot. I've gotten divorced really young. I decided to come out as bisexual to a very religious family that I thought was not going to accept me, and they fully did. And like getting to unpack that, and you know, you lose people, but you also, you gain, at the bare minimum, you grow. And that's been my commitment, even though it's not always like light and bright and airy. And it's also never completely finished. Like the journey doesn't end, it's forever. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Beautifully. And the word surrender keeps coming up for me in hearing you speak, the just surrendering to the process, surrendering to the path, the journey, whatever you want to call it. And I love that you shared, you know, there was even the shadow sides of this. I think oftentimes when people think spirituality, they think it is the woo, it is the, you know, the sound baths and the meditations and all of that. And, you know, manifesting even, I think, would come up for some people, but it is working through and surrendering through the hard shit and the hard parts of our life. And it's not really, I believe, until you do that work and face the noise sort of in that way, that growth truly happens for yourself. And I was somebody for the longest time, like I felt, oh, I don't really have shit. I don't have baggage. Like my life has been great so far. And then one day it was like shit hit the fan. I then look back at my life. I'm like, wow, I've actually endured like some crazy shit in my life that I just brushed under the rug for so long. And it wasn't until same thing, I started unpacking this, questioning who am I? Same thing in regards to sexuality. Who do I want to be in life? And what is authentic to me? And yeah, again, just working through some of those past experiences that, yeah, I am now the woman that I am today, and continuing to work on that woman is just as you are, you know, it's the journey never ends.
Yeah, well, and within that shadow, there's always the gift too. So it always feels like the illumination, like how do I turn the light on in this really, really dark part of me? And that's where it intricately weaves for me with the women's work that I do. And it goes beyond, to me, sex. I'm starting to detach from saying I'm a women's coach, just because I serve women, yes. And I am very fluid. I do not confine myself to black and white or male or female. And I have a partner that really has pushed me and urged me to honor that part of myself as well as themselves. And so you know, that can look like a whole other conversation. But for us, it's really just, again, it's honoring all parts of ourselves. I think there's like so much repression in this world, or suppression, where it's just like, what are we suppressing that we're not integrating? Like for me, I always say I'm kind of, my mom's a dragon and I'm her baby dragon, and like I spit fire as well. And
Mm.
so my desire is to learn from her, because she's my greatest teacher, and be able to use fire as a tool and integrate it instead of suppress it and wish it not to be me. And
Mm.
that's like some of the passionate, you know, really purposeful, creative parts of self
Mhm.
that, so in the women's work that I do, I ask women to just integrate all parts of themselves. Like, let's look at everything, all
Mhm.
things, right? Whether it's like, ooh, I have shit or I don't,
Mhm.
we're going there.
Mhm.
And we're going to love each other through it, because I'm not going to judge you. And I also hope that that can start to change your own judgment of self.
Yeah.
So that's the work I'm committed to with it. So,
Mhm. And you mentioned the female archetypes or feminine archetypes. You mentioned like maiden to mother. And I'm curious how, because my upcoming retreat, I've been talking a lot about archetypes on the podcast lately because that's a huge part of the retreat. And I'm
mm,
curious if you can speak a little bit on how archetype work has shown up in your life and how it's been a part of your journey.
yeah. So, archetypes, I mean, for me as a woman, I think on my own path, like I had spoke to, it's like maiden to mother. And in the process of my divorce, I think I had really detached from my desire of becoming a mom. And then fast forward to donating eggs and to a really good friend of mine, and seeing a baby that is connected to me, um, really healed a lot for me in my redesiring. And so I felt like it was this full circle growing into motherhood, because of the boxing that I talked about that I did with myself. I desired so badly. My inner conversation was, I am an adult. I desire for everyone around me to treat me like an adult, but yet I was stuck in such adolescence,
Mhm.
innocence. It was purity and it was beautiful and it was maidenhood. So
Mhm.
it was what it needed to be. And now as I transition into motherhood, and even my partner and I are getting eloped in October, and we're having babies next spring and all the things. So, as I'm preparing to call in, even building this family, um, it's been really beautiful to soak in what archetypes have to bring, or when we speak to like illumination, we're illuminating it, what we desire.
Mhm.
So I guess to answer your question, like another way it's popped up for me was this spring, when um I had sat with, I was looking at my friendship values, and I was really recommitting to like what it was that I desired, and really what was being illuminated in funny ways, right? Too, it can show up and present like a trigger. It can be jealousy.
Mhm.
So, and that's the shadow aspect, but that's where it's like integrate it, play with it. Um, so for me, what I got to work with archetypes, with that within friendships, was I got to step up into a leadership role of how I desired to lead, instead of being in this like victimization of this like, oh, pity me, I don't have what I desire, and switching it. And so I think another thing I'd love to relate, because I'm betting you haven't touched on it yet, but um a reflection in teaching archetypes that I've had with a lot of clients and love perspective, The idea of anything being able to be an archetype. So essentially, like my mug right here could be the archetype of the day because it's like, and like what qualities does this mug have, right? Like it's physically strong. It's still, if I put it down, like I'm the innate feminine, like moving it. My liquid in here is feminine, but this is like the masculine container. So you start to like look at like qualities and characteristics. So one of my favorite teachings with archetypes is allowing yourself not just to attach to what mainstream archetypes are being talked about. So maiden, mother, crone, magician, lover, sorceress. Like you can get into all of them. And I offer you like one of my favorites, two favorites. One of my friends, her voice is beautiful. You hear her and she seems like the jingle bell in the room.
Mhm.
Like she just brightens up everyone's day. So she, to me, I have given her the archetype of the bell and I call her my bell. And I'm just like, ooh, it's my bell. Like, come here. And like, I'll reach out to her and text her and be like, how's my bell doing? Like, I miss you so much.
Mhm.
I have another friend. So the second one that I want to share, she's very, very sensitive, emotional, one of my favorite persons to just relate to, connect to. And she's a sponge. Like she's the archetype of the sponge where she just allows herself to kind of immerse and seep and take in and also wring out what isn't serving her. And
Mhm.
so archetypes are my favorite in so many ways, but my favorite way is just it's role playing and it's committing to the art that we're creating. And so to me, the shadow is how do we make it into art? How
Mhm.
do we make our most destructive, even like again the parts that we wish weren't us or we wish weren't like we could just say goodnight or goodbye,
Mhm.
but it's like that's the part that I'm saying the magic happens when you really start to integrate yourself as a whole. And
Mhm.
so even getting to play with masculine, feminine, leader, follower, like who are you within relationships? And
Mhm.
so it changes everything,
Yeah.
everything, but I base my life off of it.
Yeah. That, yeah, a lot of like creative inspiration is coming up for me after hearing you say that. I think that that could be a really cool experience, even at the retreat or even on like virtual calls that we have leading up to it, to be able to help people create, yeah, create their own archetype. And what I'm hearing a lot come through is like the in terms of an object, like you said, like the analogy of your mug or the sponge, like that, or even the bell. That I, yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Insight on it. Thank you.
Yeah. Good.
And
It's good stuff.
so you've gone through Sex and Love Co pretty recently. This is the same program that I went through back in God 2018. I think I was the OG of the program. And so I know it's looked much differently, but for you on this journey, when and why did you choose to go down the path of sex and relationships? And how did you know that that was, that was what you call true north for yourself?
Yeah. So a few things. Speaking of woo-woo topics coming up,
Mhm.
it really was I had gotten an astrology reading and said that my power and my sacred work relied within sexual expression. And I mean, I have always been an innate sexual being. I kind of almost believe personally, like to an extent, we all are. And that's not to put anyone in a box, but it's just like human chemistry to desire affection and love and admiration and all the things that you get from it. But it's two parts other than just like that. Like I would jokingly say it's that. And I also, on my own path, because of my own, like, I spoke to the abuse. I think I needed, because I was just doing a lot of self reflection. I was like, there's a lot of hurt within my relationship with my ex husband. there was a lot of like disassociation for me within, I think, the abuse, and then just like kind of deepening the abusive cycle of disassociation. So I think I've spoke to this on other podcasts, but I would have sex, whether it was like disassociation through drinking, so abuse, like substance abuse, or if it was like actual physical disassociation where it was like eyes closed, I wanted lights off. I had body image stuff. I couldn't, at one point in time, I didn't even like, I, this is sad to me and really tender as I speak to it, but it's just like, I didn't even like people to physically look at me nor touch me. And now I feel so 180, like I'm like, skin is sexy. Like, and I love my body now. And it took me a lot of work to get to that. And the other thing for me is I had gotten deep into the energy work, and it always was coming up as sacral energy, sacral chakra. To me, that's inner child work. So again, personal relation. It's got all our sexual organs. Like, we store all of our emotions there too. And so with all of that, it was like, I'm missing so much to talk to for my clients here. And that was where I was like, there was a call for this. Like, it's more than just desire for self to heal some facets and to get some gaps filled, but it was also, how am I going to integrate this and talk about this if it's something that I really want to speak to? And so, yeah, I'm so grateful for Sex Coach Prep School, which is going to be Sex Love University, which is amazing. But I was given so many tools within that to help others. So it's just, and I can see where no matter what work you do, I think this is important work for everyone to get into. You hear it a lot of within the company where it's like, people are like, you can do so much personal development and it can only trickle into so many facets. But I really do believe how this one, and especially if we're like sensually and sexually expressed, like fully expressed, I just believe so much of our world's healing can be done through this work in whatever facet you decide that is. Because I don't think it needs to be sexual, but it's a yummy facet, and I think we all deserve it. So, but yeah, again, I hope I answered your question.
So again, you're just so eloquent, like, so beautifully said. And oh gosh, yeah, I fully agree. I think, and again, I'm in this space too, and I see your side of where you're coming from with this. But yeah, so often, and I was this person doing all the personal development work and not doing it in regards to really more so business development. And yes, personal development comes along with that, but like I said, for so long, I just felt I had it all, right? Like nothing could go wrong. Nothing has ever gone wrong. And yeah, it wasn't until I got into the space of sexuality and embracing more self-pleasure, really, it was after getting my heart broken, after a relationship unexpectedly ending, that was really the shift for me. And yeah, and that work can be scary, especially when you're sharing, people that have sexual trauma or years and years of sexual shame, generational sexual shame that they're dealing with. That can be hard work to move through that. And you've seen it, I've seen it. What comes on the other side of that is beautiful, magical, transformational for so many people. And yeah, again, just so many people are missing the sex piece of it in their personal development. And that's almost like Pandora's box in a way. You unlock so much more potential when you bring in this component. So
yeah. Yeah. And then you can get even woo-woo-y with it. Like, really, like, do your candles, your rituals, your card pulls, I'm all into it. I joke, I'm the person that I said I would never be growing up, and I am exactly who I said I wasn't going to be. I'm the hippie that is like out naked with the trees in a forest. So that's who I've become. And
I would,
it is Pandora's box.
yeah, I would expect nothing less of you after knowing knowing you for such a small amount of time.
Mhm.
So amazing. So we talked about before recording here, possibly having you lead us through some sort of meditation. And I knew that we were like, we're not really sure where this call is going to go. This podcast is going to go. We had no script for this. We knew it was going to be sexual. We knew it was going to be spiritual. I think it's definitely hit both. And yeah, what are you thinking? I'm thinking something maybe in terms of archetypes, like a meditation to help listeners define their archetype. I don't know if that's a too big of an
Mhm.
ask, or something around, yeah, just pleasure, sexuality, whatever you're feeling. I trust you.
Yeah. I will. This is what I'm thinking and where we're going, just to kind of like set the guidelines. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking, because we've talked about so much like sacral work. So this is like our womb space. This is
Mhm.
the bowl, if you will. So to me, this is the space that we're tending to. So this is the inner garden, our temple, the physicality of our body. And so I'm going to guide us there, down into our belly. And
Mhm.
then I'm going to guide you to a reflection of water. And this is going to come up. I say always to when I teach to this, I joke it's like Peter Pan, like believing is seeing.
Mhm.
And so if you can just allow yourself to kind of believe and intuit and connect, right? So we're talking again about sacral, it's inner child. Can you get imaginative with this and let your mind really open up to like, what is this body of water I'm looking into? And then I'm going to ask you to do a reflection of like what archetype you're being shown. So,
Mhm.
what maybe, whether it's what you are now, I just say set your intention at the beginning and get clear on what it is you want to see the reflection of.
Mhm.
So, I think another thing that's coming through, if it's what if it's an archetype that you wish to grow into?
Mhm.
So then you can start pulling into some different characteristics of how to embody and play with that. So
Yeah,
that's kind of that's my intuitive hit on it.
I love it. And I'll do some
Yay.
music in the background for us. Is that okay?
Yes, that is perfect. Thank you.
Some good meditation style music. All right. And
Yeah.
I would like to close my eyes throughout this and to be able to participate as you're guiding through this.
Yes, please. Yes. I mean, I'll probably be immersed in it as well. All righty, friends. So we are just going to do a few disclaimers before this meditation. And for me, for one, I just say we've talked a lot about, setting the tone and calling in an intention for this meditation. So if you're driving, preferably you pause and do this at a later time when you can actually take the time to integrate and sit with this meditation. Um, and then, other than that, allow yourself to connect to your inner child imagination. Be open to anything and everything that you're being shown. And I always say from a perspective of curiosity and non judgment. So, really practicing non attachment. So, you can go in expecting to see a specific archetype or a specific space that you're going to be shown or connected to, and maybe something totally random comes up. And I just invite you to let that be, I always say, the medicine that it is that you need, or the gift that is being illuminated before your eyes. And so, whether that is through felt sensation, emotion, physicality, whatever it is, lean into it, because those subtleties to me are my why behind doing all of this work. And it's the magic, and it's the magic in the moments that we don't really pause and accept. And so please pause and accept this as a gift, and for yourself to be shown a if we haven't mentioned it, we're calling in an archetype that you wish to grow into, or maybe it's the highest sovereignty, if you will, of what you are calling in for yourself. And so I'm guiding you to this inner sanctuary, this temple from within. So it's a journey and it's a path, and just let it unfold. So those are going to be my disclaimers of just leaning into this experience. Does that sound good? Okay. All right. So we are going to begin. Just find a comfortable seat or lie down. Allow yourself to release some distractions, whether that's with your thoughts, your to-dos, just starting to connect to that ebb and flow of your breath. Inhaling through your nose. Open mouth, exhale, letting it go. Few more just like this, nice and deep. And as you ride that inhale and exhale, grounding into your root systems. So envisioning roots growing from your body, maybe your heart, maybe your hips, maybe the soles of your feet. And allowing with every single breath that root system to grow stronger and deeper to the center of the earth. And as soon as those roots reach the center of the earth, allow her energy to come through your roots all the way up through the soles of your feet and all the way up through the crown of your head. And as that crown starts to open, gathering that transcendent energy to call in that sky energy, the source energy, the one that says that we are all connected. And almost like a shower, like you allow it permission to just rain or wash over you, that source energy. And following that inhale and exhale, 360 around your body, up and down. Noticing any blocks or just other energies, right? Light or dark, gray scale, gray matter, whatever you're being shown. Using your breath to meet resistance. And as we deepen this breath, we truly deepen into body and into heart. So I want you to start to connect to your heart. And seeing somewhere within your heart that there is an entrance. Meeting this opening, seeing a doorway, a connection to get past any armor or shields of protection. And as you open this door, seeing almost as if you're given this blueprint of a path of your journey that is to unfold. taking baby steps, one step at a time, almost as if you're being called closer and closer to yourself, to home, to gathering all aspects of yourself to oneness. So as we journey in the distance, I want you to hear a water feature. Maybe it's a river, a waterfall. It could even be like a physical bath. Just letting yourself be guided by that water, like you're being whispered to get closer to her. And I want you to get so close, and as if it's being illuminated, like a reflection on the water, like we're opening up this magic portal to be shown a gift, an archetype, one that we desire to embody, one that we have disconnected and said, this is not me. That full body stance of anything you are being shown. And let yourself soak in that sensation, the facts, some of the gifts around it. Who is there? Who are you in this moment? What do you feel like? What are you wearing? Can you let that seep in with every breath you take? Every inhale and exhale, just letting your cellular body awaken to this vision, this one facet of self that we are calling in. And if there's some shock or awe or wonderment, allow yourself the curiosity to ask questions. How do I play with this? How do I love this part of me fully? How do I accept this? Just allowing that reflection to penetrate your hearts in the softest of ways, like a hug, like a hold. Whether it's from yourself or your guides or this archetype that's just seeing you, validating you. I want you to take a few deep breaths for this vision, this reflection, this calling in, this manifestation. Just kind of allow that nervous system with each breath to relax into this vision. And I'm seeing, just to make this a little bit more physical, to ground this in, if it's a hand to heart and a hand to belly, or if any throat chakra stuff came up, if it's a hand to the throat, or if you're feeling blocked in your visions, maybe it's a hand on your third eye, that middle space on your forehead. Or maybe it's a palm to the earth, just a grounding, a surrendering to her. If it's an emotional release, can you hand it over? And just taking 3 deep breaths, nice and soft. Inhaling through your nose And just taking whatever exhale suiting you, whether that's open mouth. You can seal your lips if you're trying to create a little bit of heat, fire elements. And wherever your hands are, just guiding both hands to your heart center. Affirming to yourself that you are enough, that you are whole, and that you are worthy of this vision, of all your desires in this world, on all planes of existence, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And taking one last final breath with a little bow of your head, just chin to chest, surrendering to your heart. Allowing yourself to be moved by your breath. Sealing yourself in a blanket of love, whether that's a hug or an imaginative, iridescent shield wrapping around you like the form of protection. Last inhale. Slow, smooth exhale. Allowing yourself space before rapidly opening eyes or any rapid movement, just being tender. If you have time, you can sit in it longer. If not, just be gentle with yourself. Water, love, maybe a journal practice if stuff came up. Sometimes a little wiggle of the hands or the fingers before opening the eyes. Just being gentle. And my favorite after meditation, stretching. So if you need to stretch, you can take that for yourself. Giving yourself the loves. Yay.
Thank you, JoJo. That was amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for letting me do that for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I kept seeing myself. I like the water, and I feel like I kept seeing leaves. Yeah. And yeah, like seeing myself like speaking, like in a crowd. Like, so I'm like thinking like, okay, like queen energy was coming through for that queen archetype. Yeah, it was interesting.
I love it.
Very
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always so interesting to me what comes up, but even, you can look into symbolism, right? So you said leaves. We talked about death and rebirth. We're coming into fall, like we're releasing stuff. There's all so much symbology, and I call it the language of the universe. And so it's just like, are you willing to listen?
Yeah.
Listen to that language of the universe.
Yeah. Yeah. And taking us back to the death and the rebirth, that death doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. Like death is, yeah. And I remember going to several tarot readings in the last 2 years is really just when I've been in this. And this shit is what I call like a lot of healing, a lot of shadow work, a lot of just uncomfortableness. And I remember seeing that death card for the first time, and then it kept coming up in readings. I'm like, what the hell? Like when am I going to get out of this? Like when is it going to be over? Why death card, tower card? I'm like, why is this happening to me? Like, why me? And just sitting in that misery. And then you shift from that to the why not me? And this is happening for me, not to me. And the beauty that can come from that when you shift that mindset, and not even just saying it, but truly believing that this is happening for me, and what gets to be created from this, and what comes out of this, who comes out of this, right?
Totally.
Yeah, I love that. My word for this
love that
was becoming. And yeah, I check in with myself, every now and then, generally around moon phases, which we're in the full moon right now. And yeah, it's been like a good north, use that North Star, like that word has been a good North Star for me this year, checking in to make sure that I'm becoming the woman and doing the things to become the woman that I aspire to be.
Yeah, so powerful. I think another like iteration of what you just brought up that comes to mind is victimization of a shadow frequency being transformed into freedom.
Mm.
And so, yeah, when I find myself, right, we're not perfect. We get into victim mode all the time, and not all the time, but we feel it and experience it, whether it's in like a little nuance of like a little ripple or it's like big stuff. But it's so beautiful to sit in the awareness of like, how can I transform this into, like you're saying, the becoming.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that freedom gets me every time. Freedom was my word this year, so that's how I'm connecting that to what you shared.
Yeah.
And anytime I share that, it's so funny to read body language, right? We're taught to read people's body language. And I always get the very wide eyes, like, wow, she picked that word for herself. But I love it. It's been a really good one. There's always gifts that come with choosing a word for your year. So I love that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, thank you, JoJo. This whole conversation has just been so refreshing. And thank you again for leading us through that amazing, beautiful meditation. If people are wanting to connect with you and find you and maybe even attend some of your retreats and things that you offer, how do you prefer that they reach you?
Honestly, Instagram's probably the greatest spot for me. I've got 2 places that you can follow me. So it's jojo.seamons or Red Tent Collective. So that's a lot of the women's retreats that I put on are through that. So, and we do cool stuff with that. So whether you're local or out of town, we have lots of opportunities for you. So
Wonderful. Thank you
and
again.
thank
So
you.
much. Yes.
I cherish you. I love you. I was telling my girlfriends I made it up here with last night for this retreat. The close facilitators that are here, I was talking about everything that happened, and I just reflected to them. I was like, yeah, like Rachel, we eye gazed together, and I was like, and it was my favorite experience. So I will forever cherish and hold you in my heart space. I love and adore you, and the work you do is really, really awesome. So
You too, my love. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for this, and I hope to see you again very soon.
yay, same.